Hey folks, we are back for Rotten Reelz Reviews audio review. We're on number 37. As many of you are aware, we lost writer-director Tobe Hooper the 27th this August. And while that is a major blow to anything that is creative and horror, well, I thought we could journey down the rabbit hole of what the fuck, along with his major coup that brought desperation, terror, and ultimate torment. So get your clogs on, make a shitload of noise, and let's go hide in the basement with the potential killer. This is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The original film is loosely based on the exploits of real-life serial killer Ed Gein, formerly of Wisconsin. So we change up some locations, maybe build a bizarre family of cannibalistic, grave-robbing nutter butters, tormenting teens and making them into spare ribs. Doesn't that sound keen? The hell? Farmer critters, French fried fritters? Huh. Could be the secret recipe to Red Robin. Well, with a bit more reverse exposure, we see... I'm not really certain. Pretty sure I prepared my own coffee, and I didn't normally have a blotter of acid around, but I could be wrong. So 5 teenagers go on a road trip because their friend Sally and her brother Franklin wish to pay respects to their grandfather's grave. Something that a lot of kids don't understand. Respect. Yeah, I went there. That's all my apolitical bullshit I had off me. This time around, it was desecrated with a human skeleton perched on top of the headstone, posed as if it's some sort of sick joke. Yeah, many of you wondering, how did Sally and Franklin actually remember what town the grave was in pre-Google? I know. How did they manage? Oh, yeah, they had Clippy in human form. Silly me. Ugh. Come on, little missy, just be grateful Bob Hope didn't buy up this land for a golf course. Looks like we need a pit stop for Franklin. Pissing in his pants would not have been dignified, and his gang are there for him. Also, that smell for the next 200 miles in this heat? Ugh, horrific. Stop looking, it hurts to hold it in. I'm sorry. If any of you managed to not snicker at that tumbling, bumbling down the hill, then you are a better person than I. And he died. Okay, fine, Franklin lives. God, I hate giving out spoilers. Back on the road, and boy, there's a stink in the air, and I ain't talking about air supply. Yeah, I don't care for him. Franklin, did you shit your pants again? Well, we're going to need some cruising music, so let's get it going. And, of course, being in Texas, you only truly have to worry about 2 things. 1, your vehicle overheating. And 2, strangers with far too much exposition. Yeah, keep that in mind. Our plucky teenagers pick up an odd fellow from off the road who informs them all about life on the killing floor and head cheese and how sledgehammer versus air gun is, better for a kill. And yeah, this guy might be a little off. Of course, I love how all the kids are sitting the opposing side of said hitchhiker. It's like, they're all crammed over there in one corner. He's just, willy-nilly. He freaks out the kids by cutting on himself, and they, inadvertently chuck him out of the van. Yeah, well, that was strange indeed. I hope karma isn't trying to say something to us. Running low or just flat out empty on gas, the kids decide to split up and find help. Yeah, because you know how mobile Franklin is there. Gosh, honey, I thought rolling down the hill of filth would somehow be like it was in that movie Side Hackers. Man, movies sure are phony. Lured onto the property by the sound of a gas generator. And being from the Midwest, we normally approach these houses very carefully. Could be an uppity farmer doesn't want you fucking his cornfield. Could be a household filled with moonshine swilling cannibals. Again, you never know. Ah, Jesus. All right, I'm sorry. Just hanging no soliciting sign or something. Damn. Ah, the only thing the remakes got right. Ass. The kids all systematically start heading to what appears to be the only house within 5 miles. So, tried and true Scooby-Doo fashion, they of course split up. With no Great Dane to be able to assist them, no girl constantly losing her glasses, it might be this mystery is a little beyond them. Still, they are looking for some assistance, only to be ambushed and mentally scarred. Ah, okay, and now I need clean pants. Yeah, I could have done without that one. Nighttime falls around, and finally Sally and Franklin are sick and tired of waiting by the van, assuming that eventually one of their friends will show up with, I don't know, a gallon of gas and get them back on the road coasting. So it's time to pack up their troubles, and head on out and look for wherever their friends may be. Ah! And now I need another pair of clean pants. Thank you for that. With this visceral dementia look at this just filth-ridden house, just strewn bones and dead animal carcasses throughout the house, and this slight, I guess for lack of a better term, POV look into these raving nutters, it just gives off this otherwise bleak vision. This film is brutal, vicious, and an awe-inspiring example of what it means to create an independent film. The sheer desperation of our lead actress is felt from just her eyeing around the house. I mean, is this destined that she is to be the lone survivor, making her way through and from all these Looney Tunes, which we can only assume then she goes into hiding and or therapy, or both? And once again, after that, we have what can only be described as a decade of abject silence. That you wouldn't be able to see this film on anything but a drive-in or Betamax. Director Tobe Hooper claimed in articles and interviews years and years ago that the whole thought process behind this horror mecca was being swarmed by a mass load of shoppers in a department store during the Christmas holiday. And the first thing he spotted was a chainsaw, and how ideal this particular tool would be to cut a bloody swath to the exit. And let's face it, we've all had those days. And while this is shot in 16mm, and of course later printed in 35mm, this film feels raw, unhindered. It's almost like if there was a production, at least higher than what you would normally expect on an independent, they didn't get any say. This film has been put on the Video Nasties, thanks to the UK, understanding that this film was shunned by churches, banned by governments, and to this very day is still critically acclaimed as one of the most frightening movies put to film. And while, yes, I've had to endure the godforsaken remakes, again, they don't get it. I mean, sure, you got your arterial sprays and your body's being worked on by Leatherface. And, the whole meat hook scene, which was not for the faint of heart and or stomach. But unfortunately, the CGI aspect of it just made it look kind of silly. So, yeah, the remake is bloodier, disgusting, and while it attempts some semblance of dark humor, make no mistake that while they wanted it to top the original, that shit just ain't gonna happen between the dialogue alone. Half of these kids that are being slaughtered have no personality. You cut back to the original, they are speaking in a time period based dialect. They're just interacting. You actually have a sense of camaraderie. Versus what I felt from the remake was nothing more than a bunch of smartasses that had to be pithy or clever on any given minute. And yeah, I didn't feel like there was any level of bond. Sure, people rip on each other, but not to this magnitude. I still find it amusing that the remake writer is actually responsible for the remakes of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Crazies, and Amityville Horror. So clearly he can write something someone else has already created the groundwork for and written for him ahead of time. Yeah, way to go, Scott Kozar. So impressed. Although, an amusing fact, both films were narrated by John Larroquette, and I'm just hoping he got more than a joint for the remake. And for while there are some solid scares and decent performances, overall the remake will not hold anything to the desperation, the just idle terror that the original did. Now, I'm not trying to not be objective, but I'm sorry. There are so many elements of just bizarre that intertwine in this film. It'll make you hard pressed to look anywhere else for this horror film. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I've got. And once again, it is a loss for Tobe Hooper to have shuffled off this mortal coil. But for God's sakes, watch some of his other movies. Eaten Alive, his miniseries with Salem's Lot that came out in 1979. Funhouse is a good one. Just feel free to explore that. And again, if you guys have any suggestions, if you have, I don't know, maybe some questions, some comments, leave them on Facebook for Rotten Reelz Reviews. You can catch me up here on VidMe, where if there's plenty of comment space there. Okay, I think I'm done. And thanks a lot again. Have a good one. Bye.